Have you ever found yourself in a situation that began quite normally but suddenly took an unexpected turn? Sometimes feelings and desires arise in places where we least expect them, and that's when we least anticipate it. We find ourselves at the center of events with which we don't know how to cope. Today's story is just right for this topic, about how life can surprise us in ways we never dreamed of. Stay with me until the end, and together we will dive into a situation filled with tension, doubts, and decisions that change everything. It all started on a quiet evening, nothing special compared to others. I offered to my daughter to invite her boyfriend to dinner with us. To me, it seemed like a good opportunity to get to know him better and understand more about their relationship. After all, he was an important person in her life, and I wanted to be sure that she was with someone who treated her well. My daughter happily agreed. We arranged everything, and he came over for dinner. When he arrived, he struck me as a nice, well-mannered guy who sincerely cared about my daughter. Everything went well. We sat down at the table and discussed usual topics, laughing at funny stories. He really made an impression, being a special, charming, self-confident person capable of captivating those around him. However, somewhere inside, I began to feel uneasy during dinner because I noticed that his looks at me were not merely the glances of someone trying to impress his girlfriend's mother. They were intense stares, feelings I couldn't immediately explain. At first, I thought it was just my imagination. Perhaps he was a little nervous being with his girlfriend's family, like many people in similar situations. But the longer the evening went on, the stronger that feeling became. The atmosphere felt light, and my daughter seemed happy in some way. At that moment, she invited him to stay the night since it was already late and he lived far away. He smiled and agreed, and it seemed that everything was fine, but I still couldn't ignore his looks. There was something more there, something I didn't want to admit even to myself. When we were clearing the table, I noticed my daughter acting strangely. Her smile disappeared, and she looked thoughtful and lost in her thoughts. As a mother, I immediately felt that something was wrong. "Is everything okay?" I asked her while we washed the dishes. She hesitated for a moment, as if deciding whether to tell me something. Finally, she took a deep breath and, with a note of disappointment in her voice, said, "Mom, he keeps looking at you." In that moment, I felt a chill inside. I had already noticed his glances, but hearing this from my daughter was a real shock. "What do you mean?" I asked, trying to remain calm. She continued, "He doesn't look at you like other boyfriends I've had. I may be exaggerating, but it seems to me that he's looking at you differently." I tried to downplay the situation, suggesting that maybe he was just nervous and wanted to make a good impression, which was normal. But deep down, I knew it wasn't just nerves. I knew there was something more in his gaze. Then she said, "I don't know, Mom. I want to believe that he's not like others, but sometimes I feel uneasy." I didn't know if it was jealousy or something else. I tried to reassure her, saying, "Darling, there are ups and downs in relationships. It's important that you talked and were open with each other. Jealousy is normal, but don't let it destroy what you have." She hugged me, thanking me for always being by her side, but even after that, I couldn't shake off the conversation about his behavior that night. It made me feel uncomfortable, but at the same time, something awakened in me that I hadn't felt in a long time. During dinner, he amazed me with his intelligence. He was young, handsome, and charming in conversation. I admit I felt an attraction for him. Every time he talked about his projects and ambitions, his eyes sparkled in such a way that it was hard not to notice. At one point, I even joked that if I were a little younger, maybe he would have caught my interest. My daughter laughed, thinking it was just a joke, but deep down, I knew it wasn't just a joke. After dinner, my daughter and he sat down on the sofa while I went to the kitchen to finish cleaning. I spent some time there trying to sort out my thoughts. Could it really be me? Am I exaggerating? Are these feelings real? The thing is that despite knowing this was wrong, there was something about him that unexpectedly attracted me in an inexplicable way. I returned to the living room and saw them talking and laughing together. They seemed so happy. But part of me couldn't ignore the tension that existed between him and me. It was quiet but noticeable. Before they left, he said goodbye to me in the hallway and thanked me for dinner, saying it was a wonderful evening and expressing his gratitude for my hospitality, with a smile that seemed to mean more than just politeness. I smiled in response, trying to remain composed. My daughter also smiled, and they went up to their room together while I went to my own bedroom. That night, I finished my tasks and went to bed, but my thoughts wouldn't let me rest. I replayed every moment of the evening in my mind, every look and every word. I knew I shouldn't think that way, but I couldn't stop. He awakened something in me that I thought I had long forgotten. When I finally started to relax, I heard a quiet sound at my bedroom door. I thought it was my imagination, but soon I felt a light touch on my shoulder. I slowly opened my eyes to find him standing next to my bed with a mischievous smile on his face. At that moment, my heart began to race. I understood that this was completely wrong, but I also knew that the tension between us had been building up all evening. He said nothing, and for a moment, I found myself in a daze, not knowing how to react. He slowly leaned over, and I felt the atmosphere in the room becoming more charged. Despite my mind shouting to stop and say something to prevent what should not happen, my body wouldn't comply. I was overwhelmed with mixed feelings, excitement and fear. His touch on my shoulder was soft, and his eyes conveyed everything I needed to know.